Joining us today is Kathleen LaRocque, a visionary product leader with deep experience in scaling SaaS and IoT platforms across global markets. From leading high revenue launches to driving AI and eSIM innovation, Kathleen brings an impressive blend of technical know-how and strategic insight to every product she touches. Welcome, Kathleen. So glad to have you.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
So let's just jump right in. What moment in your career has taught you the most?
Well, there have been so many, but what comes to mind when I think about this is probably the moment that really defined my career. I've worked in some form or another in customer service, pre-sales, tech support, help desk. And in every instance, I've reached for more in the sense that if I had the opportunity to do something different beyond my role, I would always take it. I was searching for what I wanted to do long term. And then when I joined my last organization as in the product management group, I was entry level, of course, and found that I enjoyed defining new things. And it wasn't until I got to the point where I was given the build of the company's new flagship platform. I was a senior product manager by then, and it was a big project. And I realized that it was so important and complicated and influential and, of course, impactful that I began to truly love product management because of that. And I realized, too, that I was able to affect the organization, touch the entire customer base. I was leading the delivery of revenue, of customer loyalty, of innovation. It just really was a powerful moment for me. And that was when I realized that this is my future. This is what I wanted to spend the rest of my career doing in one form or another, building new products.
Fascinating stuff. And the realization that you are able to touch so many different people with what you're doing must have been fantastic.
It was. And it wasn't an aha moment. It took a little time to gradually get to that understanding, but wow, I'm affecting the outcome of my organization. Lowly me. It was truly blowing, I guess.
That's great. So that leads me to a question. When your colleagues or team members describe you, what 3 words would they consistently use?
Well, diligent comes to mind, or a less nice word, persistent. But when you're a product manager, you really need to be that because you have to look at it from the perspective of obstacles are really just exciting detours. You have to first learn everything there is you need to know about it, and then you need to figure out how you're going to define around it, incorporate it, move over it. I had the opportunity to move into the incubation group, the last organization, and I hesitate to call it a team. It was myself and my manager. It was me. And in fact, it was a team that had no funding aside from my time. So when we determined that we wanted to build a business internet solution, I then had to figure out how to do that without funding, which meant I had to build the whole program inside existing tooling, teams, systems. So this is where my love of learning comes in. I spent months, in fact, learning all aspects of the organization that my solution would touch. And I realized that I could get this done within our existing systems. Wasn't perfect, but it was launchable. So in the end, I was able to sit down and build a workflow from end to end. And I used, how would sales orders, when I say end to end, how would sales orders be placed? How would orders be fulfilled? What would be the customer experience? I had to be persistent and creative to overcome all of the obstacles. And there were many along the way. In the end, I was able to successfully launch roughly 39 solutions and services in the US, UK, and EU in roughly 2 years.
Wow.
So the diligence, persistence, I kept at it. With that, the second word I would think about is, we use it every day today, self-starter.
Mm-hmm.
I take the initiative. It doesn't matter what the task is, the idea. I love brainstorming teams. It's so much fun. In the end, when you're done, when you walk away with all the tasks, I will not only take my task and do all that research, but I will research everybody else's task. Because I believe that a product manager should know what they're striving to get done. They need to know it end to end, everything about it. But my curiosity and my thirst for knowledge is really my driving force. And so I want to know. An example of that would be, as my last organization continued to develop new products and services, it was made clear at all levels that we needed better data management, and no one would pick up the project. Mostly because we had so many projects in flight and everybody was overwhelmed already. So instead of complaining about it and trying to find ways around it, I took it upon myself to go do the research terminology, the possible structures, data lakes, data warehouses, and so on. And then, how was our data currently stored? I then built a presentation, business case light, I would say, basically expressing the need for the investment within the organization, and presented that to the CTO, along with some architects and engineers who were right there with me. And it was maybe 2 slides in, if I got that far, before the CTO stopped me and said, "Wait, you're right, 100%," and assigned resources right then and there. It's sometimes necessary to point out where the challenges are, even at the highest levels. And then, in order to understand the impact that current prioritization has on the organization, and then once you understand that, you're able to see the path forward.
That's fascinating. Truly fascinating. Outside of your professional achievements, what passion project or personal interest has taught you skills that make you better at what you do?
Ooh, well, I have 2 passions, really. I enjoy um, reading and I enjoy painting. I haven't done so much painting recently, but I believe that painting, that time I've spent painting, gives me an understanding or skills to be creative and visionary. It really, when you sit down to do start painting, I don't typically start out with a plan. I just paint. So it allows me to indulge my creativity. Books. I listen to audiobooks. I read books. Fiction, yes, of course. That's the key to not burning out in any job, is to have some kind of escape. But I also really enjoy biographies and documentaries. And it's really very fascinating. For example, I recently read a book called Green Light. It was written by Matthew McConaughey. And it was just an amazing look at his path to success. Another would be Whoopi Goldberg. She wrote Bits and Pieces. And it, again, an amazing story of success, rags to riches, I guess you could say it. And it inspiring. I also believe that my love of learning also drives what I do each and every day in product management, quantum computing, 6G, and machine learning, all of those things. And I believe that in the end, this makes me a better communicator. And it allows me to create marketing material and artifacts and those things too. So the basic stuff, but also the tough stuff, being a communicator at all levels. And I think it helps quite a bit with.
Great answer. So can you tell me about a mentor?
Oh, there are two that come to mind. And first was Chris Davies. He was my manager when I worked as a pre-sales engineer. And I was so new at it. I knew how to do customer tech support and customer service, but I really didn't understand the selling aspect. And so that's what he taught me. He taught me how to be in front of a customer, how to sell to a customer, and how to build a relationship. But the more influential person in my life over the last 8 years was my manager at my last organization. He taught me everything about leadership, about product management and interacting with executives. And he taught me that remaining calm, at least outwardly, when faced with adversity, challenges, that kind of thing, or any kind of difficult situation is the best way to handle it. Don't get me wrong, being passionate, met many of them and been that person about a topic or issue, it's fine. But applying a calm and level head to the solution is the only way to succeed long term. An example of that would be I was working on a critical project and I was leading that critical project and reporting upwards to our executives. And during that update to them, that report to them, I was expressing the challenges that we were having with customer adoption. And because I had built this product, one of the leaders suggested that my opinion was based upon the product being my baby. I could have easily taken offense to that, but I knew it wasn't meant in a bad sense. And instead, I just paused for a moment and explained to the leader that it's not that it's my baby. It's not the internal attitudes of the sales, of the support, of the leadership because of challenges is bleeding through to the customers. And what I really need is a change in attitude from top down. And I was able to express that calmly, respectfully. And because of that, my ask and my response was far more credible to them. And so I find that to be remaining calm in challenging situations. It's absolutely important.
I thoroughly agree. I had long been a proponent. My father-in-law had on his desk for years this little plaque that showed a duck calmly going on the water, and it said, "Act like a duck, be calm and collected above the water, and paddle like hell underneath." And I thought, yep, that's exactly right. So
That is so very true.
it is. So going back to a question, what you were talking about before about your love of reading, what book or podcast has influenced you?
Oh, goodness. I think the one that has really influenced me recently would be Outliers, The Story of Success by Malcolm Gladwell. I stumbled across this book. I can't even remember how I got it. It might have been from one of my leadership. But basically, it's a deep dive into what makes high achievers different. High achievers meaning people like Bill Gates, JP Morgan. And it was really fascinating to understand that some of the greatest names of our times were or are great due to timing and circumstance. Honestly, timing and circumstance. He traced Bill Gates' rise to fame to 9 opportunities in his lifetime from the time he was a kid. Literally 9 chance happenings of luck or circumstance. And it's one of those things that, is this repeatable? Well, maybe, Look at what AI and machine learning are doing right now in today's changing landscape of technology. I think that is crazy to think, but out of AI and machine learning, there'll be some great names that come and become historical.
Mm-hmm. Very good point. Thinking about those famous people, if you could spend a day learning anything from anyone, living or historical, who would it be and why?
I had to think about this for a little bit because I really want to learn from a lot of people, not just one. But I recently completed a decision maker learning plan on AWS Skill Builder, so that I could add that to my understanding of cloud computing. And in doing so, I realized, or it just struck me at the time, what AWS has done with cloud computing, just the impact, the disruption, the global impact, and visions of what they'll be doing in the future. But still, that inspired me to go learn about how it started,
Mm-hmm.
who started it. And that would be the team at Amazon, um, back in 2000. They were struggling to figure out how to deploy technology faster. That's where it came from. We've got to do this faster. How can we do it faster? And over time, as they strove to solve for that problem, Amazon Web Services was born. So with that thought in mind, I would really love to sit in a room, spend a couple days talking with Jeff Bezos, Andy Jassy, who is his right-hand technology advisor, or at least was back then. Alan Vermeulen, and I hope I said his name right, who was the CTO at the time, and then Matt Round, who was a very frustrated engineering leader. Sitting down with them to learn, just to talk with them about how they innovate and how they think of the world and their views and their perspectives, it would be priceless.
Fascinating stuff. And it's funny that the way I hadn't heard the origin story of AWS, but it sounds to me so similar, much smaller scale, but Post-it notes. They were
Mm-hmm.
trying to figure out a solution, or they created this product that didn't work well. And they said, there's got to be a better way to do this. And so they created this better mousetrap by mistake almost. And it's what you're saying here is that AWS was fixing their own internal problem and realized, wow, we've created something outstanding. We can now sell this to other people. Because if you think about it, Amazon Web Services makes no sense when you're talking about we're a bookstore or an online bookstore.
Yep.
But it was because of that problem they had internally that they needed to solve. They created an incredible resource that has become, I think, their biggest moneymaker. So fascinating stuff. You're right. That leads me to, what do you see as the future of the industry?
Oh, well, I focus more on the future of product management because product management exists in every industry, right? Whether you're building something physical or you're working on software or connectivity, which is something that I did in the IoT world. But I think no matter where you are, no matter what industry it is, product management will obviously be impacted by artificial intelligence and machine learning, whether it's through the deliverables, the things that you're building, or whether it's with the tools to accelerate how you do this, how you build those products. And I think that's hands down a huge impact. But with that in mind, I've spent my time learning about artificial intelligence and machine learning into a deeper understanding, the complexities, the challenges, the biases, the ethics, and even the governance or lack thereof, learning about the use cases. And in the end, I earned an AI product management specialization online. And I want to take that to wherever I go because it is the future. It doesn't matter which organization it is, which industry it is, it's the future. And the foundation of that future, dig a little deeper, is in fact the data that supports machine learning and artificial intelligence. Monetizing it, looking at it from the perspective of I need a lot of it. I need it to be well-formed, and I need to utilize it. And every industry will have its own use case, but it's still basically the same thing. It's data.
It's funny. A woman on my team, she loves to talk about how the shiny new toy isn't necessarily going to fix your problem if the underlying source isn't perfect. So putting a faster process on a bad process is just going to make a faster bad process. So
Exactly.
you have to really be thinking these things through and making sure your data is well collected, it is accurate,
Absolutely.
it represents exactly what you need, and it's secure. Then you can have all these fancy things that get built on top of it. But I think you're 100% correct. So thank you so much for joining us today. This has been a fascinating conversation.
Thank you. It was a pleasure being here, and I truly appreciate your time.
MTMG, guidance that empowers.